Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today is Friday, September the 3rd, and we're ready to do one of the shortest lectures ever. Usually, this lecture is all about solving one small, tiny little problem that most of you will encounter either right before turning in assignment 1 or as early as working on assignment 2. Therefore, let's get right to it. Let me see if I can find my website. What did I do with that website? Did I just close that page? That's fine. Let's go ahead and open up a brand new one. Here we go. Just opening up on a different monitor. That's cool. Click here, and we're in our VM. Ladies and gentlemen, here is usually the problem. I'm gonna tell you what it is, and then we'll talk about how to solve it. Usually when you set up a VM, you go, you configure. You've done this before, so I don't have to really go through the process. You log into your machine, you log in as root, your Panther ID, and now, well, that's not my Panther ID. There you go, you log in with your Panther ID, and now you're in the machine. What seems to be the problem here? The problem is maybe you open up a terminal, and let's make terminal different colors so that it's easy to spot. You open up a terminal, connect to Ocelot, and then connect to that particular IP. In this case, 10.128.2.101 and root. Enter the password, and you're in. It's usually not that big of a deal. If it's the first time that you connect, you will be asked to remember the SSH configuration of another server, right? I mean, like the keys, like this identifier. All right, that's pretty cool. But what does that really mean for all of us, and how does that present a problem? Let me go ahead and illustrate that with another terminal. So let's go ahead and close up our VNC. Obviously, we don't want anybody to connect with our VNC password and port information. So when they come in here, we can just X that out. Let's go ahead and open up another terminal. We'll go ahead and make this a different color, keeping in the spirit of each color will be a different virtual machine. So in the virtual machine, blue, which is a different IP, it's not one of the ones assigned by the class. I go to Ocelot, then I go to my dear friend here, SSH 10.128.3.173. That will be one of the IPs that we will be using on assignment 2, IPs that are dynamic in nature. Notice I connected. So from here, I would like to go from VM yellow to VM blue, and I should be able to accomplish this by just typing in the SSH command. Obviously, I can type this in a different format, so let me do that. So let's just say root at, also equally as good. Let's go ahead and enter. Now this time I'm presented with the fingerprint information, because it's telling me, do you know who this user is and who you're trying to connect? We're going to say yes. We're going to enter the password. And after that, I am now connected to the same machine. If I type in W, I see that there's a couple of users connected here, and that's fine. What we're going to demo is basically what happens when you, maybe by mistake, you hit the VM again, you configure it, and you try to SSH yet a second time. So the first connection is right here. It went very well. But on the second connection, when your VM reboots, you reconfigure, it creates a file inside of the etc SSH folder. And this file is, actually it's not one file, it's multiple files. All the files that start with SSH host. These are all the fingerprints for all the type of different protocols. So when the computer comes in here, it tells, hey, I'm looking for the protocol ECDSA. And if you have ED 25519 or RSA or DSA, depending on how your machine wants to perform the handshake, there is a public key for each and every single one of them. In this case, because we use ECDSA, I am going to just, and yes, I do spell these things. I know they kind of, RSA, and they kind of have like these pretty neat little names, but I don't do that. Let's just do the following. Let's go ahead and remove all the files from here. So we're going to do a remove, and I'm going to put a star. So very quickly, I know this is a short lesson, but nonetheless, we're still going to hit a few little things here and there, like the following. The star is a wildcard, meaning I am going to delete all these files at the exact same time. So I'm just going to hit that, and I'm going to confirm by pressing Y or yes. So Y for yes. And there you go. Very aggressive keyboard strikes or strokes on the keyboard. Whew. What do we do now? We are going to double check that the files are no longer available. By doing so, we will try to connect yet a second time. The second time, we fail the verification, meaning we cannot connect to this computer. Ladies and gentlemen, questions like this may show up on your quizzes and or exams. Why? Because when you're troubleshooting, it doesn't matter if you're doing advanced Unix or if you're doing regular Unix administration, how can you get to the system if you cannot connect? This is one of the error messages that may show up, and it's explicitly connected to the fact that none of the protocols are available. You may have files already there, but unfortunately, the file that you need is not there. Maybe, or maybe none of them exist, in which that's the case today. So what are we going to do? We're going to run another command. It's going to be ssh-keygen, and what we'll do is -a. ssh-keygen is the command we will be using on in the next section for public key cryptography. But in this case, we're going to use this command with an option, no arguments. So this is the Unix command structure, right? Command option argument. We're going to just enter this so that we can regenerate all the protocols back on the system. When we do so, what do we have here? We have ls-l. We can see that all the files have been generated, and we see today's timestamp, 5:58 on September the 3rd. By doing so, we're going to recreate this one more time. We're going to try to connect, and now we can see the message that some of you have already expressed to me or in the chat that you're getting, and I'm going to show you how to fix it. Well, why was the message generated? The message was generated because the public key for ECDSA, it's this guy. We can open it. The file, actually this value, doesn't match the value that we have here. Because that's the case, it doesn't validate, and therefore we have to, the system thinks that somebody else is in the middle pretending to be that IP, and therefore it will not connect in a safely manner. This is usually known as a man-in-the-middle attack, but because we know that this is constantly you, this is basically just you restarting the machine over and over again, because that's you, then all you have to do is you just have to go back to your computer, in this case, technically Ocelot, right? That's the one where you will do that. But I'm going to do the example from my machine. In this case, what ends up happening is that I have a file inside of my home folder. So I'm going to put the squiggly line to denote my home folder, SSH known hosts. This fingerprint is the one that belongs to this computer. Why? Because that's the IP and that's the fingerprint that it should have. There are two ways to solve this. One way is you can go into the file, edit the file, delete the line, the one line that's giving you the hard time, and perform the handshake again. When we do the handshake, we're presented with this. Do you want to accept? The answer is yes. Enter the password, and there we are. We are in node 14. We exit. We try to connect the second time, and as you see, no problems there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove the hosts one more time. So let's remove those keys. Instead of reinstalling the OS, I'm just going to take a shortcut and show you how this can be replicated. Because mostly everything is just a file. I accidentally left the RSA one. Let's see if we can connect to it again. It says cannot read the peer. Again, it can either be missing only the one that it's looking for, or it might be missing all of them depending on how the configuration was established. In this case, that's a fine. Let's let's just finish removing the one file that we're missing. Let's regenerate the keys, and it's going to go and complete that. We confirm. Remember, every time we do something, we can check. Let's see if we were doing this on the back of the book. We can check our work. We see that the new files have been generated at 18:01, also known as 6:01, on Friday, September the 3rd. We will then try to connect yet another time. And of course, the man in the middle message shows up one more time. The command that I'm going to show you this time is actually quite easy. If you have a lot of connections that you may have already sent to more servers, all you have to do is do SSH keygen -r and then the IP of the server. By doing this, the command understands that you want to go to this file where the line that is in the line in question is line number 1. They're telling you that in the messages, and this command is just going to help you remove that. In turn, it grabs the old message, right? That old fingerprint, which we can see here. It will grab this and it will store that into an old file, which is fine. No, nothing wrong there. It will just store that in an old file. But what it allows me to do, it allows me to connect back to that machine starting from the handshake, at which point I say yes, and followed by my Panther ID. Just like that, we have fixed the man-in-the-middle attack, right? So warning, remote host identification has changed. Actually, I think that's the proper technical name for this issue. So we have addressed it. We know how to replicate it, which is the same as configuring the VM multiple times and trying to connect back from Ocelot. So if this is you and you've seen this a couple of times, now you know how to fix it. Moving forward, you may get the same IP more than once as we move through the rest of the images. So please keep in mind that the fingerprints will change and you will be very likely to run into that scenario. And obviously, remember, very easy. All you have to do is just run SSH keygen -r and the IP of your server. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you guys a great weekend. I know we'll be in touch because submissions are still coming through and most of you still have a lot of questions. So hopefully this was a short, sweet, and to the point video to address the, oh my God, I lost it again, remote host identification has changed warning. All right.